Okay, welcome to another movie review stream. My name is Mark McPherson, film critic for movieswithmark.com. And we've got four new films to talk about today on today's stream. We're obviously going to talk about the two big films coming out this weekend, that being Michael, the Michael Jackson biopic. We'll also be talking about Mother Mary, the latest surreal psychological horror from David Lowery. We'll also be talking about Normal, which came out last weekend, an action comedy starring Bob Odenkirk. And we'll also be talking about Andy Serkis's Animal Farm, which will be releasing next weekend. Not this weekend, but the following weekend. So this will be an early review. We've got a lot of movies to cover here. If you'd like to check out written reviews, if you need to duck out at any time, if you want to catch up on them later, you can head on over to movieswithmark.com and read the reviews there. But if you want to stay up to date on the latest movies, since we are coming up into the summer movie season, so much bigger films on the horizon, stay up to date on the latest movies. Be sure that you're subscribed to this channel so that you can catch up on these live streams and see the latest reviews, and be sure to like the video so that more people know whether or not Animal Farm is worth their time. They've probably already come to their decisions, but still, never hurts to have a second opinion. Or a first opinion, for that matter. All right, let me get the credits out of the way here, and let's see, what should we cover first here? Oh, there's quite a bit to cover. Let's start. We'll start with the big one, since everyone's talking about it here. So, we'll start talking about Michael. Let me just get my notes up here and reorient the camera that I have here. While I'm doing that, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, while I'm getting this all set up here, be sure to check out the Patreon, where you get early access to a lot of the videos that I've been working on, as well as up-to-date chapters for my book on banned movies. I think the last one I posted up there, I think, was for it was for Ben-Hur. And the next one coming up, I think, should be for Boat People. So you can learn about a whole bunch of banned films from around the world there. All right, let me get the notes up here for Michael. Let's see, where did I have them? They're just over the horizon. Here, there they are. Okay. All right, so let me get a little drink here, and then we will get back into the swing of things. Have I seen the Clayface trailer? I have. It looks, I kind of got to reserve judgment until I see more of it, but as a teaser, I love what I'm seeing. It's also coming out the month of close to my birthday, so that'll be a nice treat. Usually really crappy films come out around that time, because it's during that time where it's almost Halloween, and a lot of studios don't want to put out a good horror film. They just want to put out a cheap one, or not even try. So it'll be nice to have something that looks a little spooky like Clayface come out. All right, here we go with our review of Michael in 3, 2, 1. So Michael is a biopic on Michael Jackson, but only a little bit. How a lot of musical biopics are kind of like the rise and fall of a person's career. This film, it feels like it's just the rise. It's just here's how this character rose to fame and, spread their wings and kind of overcame the initial hurdles that they had to get through childhood to basically ascend to the level of the pop icon that was Michael Jackson. So this film is a battle of style over substance. Because the style of the film, I think, is pretty damn good. I think I love the fact that Jafar Jackson actually does put in a really good performance here. I was even surprised how well I like the performance of Giuliano Cruvaldi, I think, who played the young Michael Jackson. And I think it's just because how they frame that kid, where they have to show him in the recording booth, where he has to sing without the music backing him up, and the concert footage to amp him up. I thought that was really good performance there. The same goes for Coleman Domingo, playing Joe, Michael Jackson's father, who of course pushed his sons into fame and was abusive. And I think Domingo's performance has a good mixture of like bewilderment and abuse at the same time, where he really is like thirsty for all that greed and power, but at the same time is also mesmerized by it as well. Which kind of makes him a little bit more interesting. I think Coleman Domingo does try to give it a little bit more depth because it feels like it could really be more of a cartoonish figure. And here's where, of course, like the biggest problem with this film is that it's only addressing Michael Jackson between the 1960s and the 1980s. So basically, yeah, the rise there, going from the Jackson 5 to sprouting on his own in a solo album. And yeah, like you would think, yeah, if you want like a more cohesive biopic, you would want to see what happens when it goes into the 90s and when it covers the more controversial aspects of, revealing Michael Jackson as, as predatory towards young boys. You would want to see that. And it sounds like it was going to be the case with this film, but then the Jackson family got involved and said, no, we're not going to put that in the film. So this kind of puts the movie in like a little bit of a quandary because, like, yes, it is frustrating. Would I like to see that aspect in the film addressing Michael's darker side? Of course it would. Who wouldn't? You want to see the darkness that comes with that fame. And I think it could actually play very well if you highlight how Joe kind of like robbed Michael of his innocence, and you see Michael trying to recapture that joy by focusing more on the juvenile, which the film does highlight here and there, but I felt like it never quite explored it enough. That could be a really good lead-in to how, how not growing up has kind of like stunted him and led him into this predatory nature. And I'm not saying that as a means of like as an excusing of what he did, but it would reveal a pattern here. And I think it would be interesting to kind of like traject that. But unfortunately, with the Jackson estate, I don't think that would happen. In fact, if they did include it, the Jackson estate would probably have notes and say, no, you can't do this, you can't do that. And we'd probably get this very sanitized version that I think would, well, I mean, it's already kind of sanitized, but it would sanitize way too much to a very like gross degree that it's almost a matter of like, do I want them to go this route? Well, if the Jackson estate is involved and they're still feuding over the film, probably not. So all we're kind of left with in the film is just like a lot of concert sequences and performances from Jafar Jackson as Michael Jackson. And on that level, on the performance level, it's actually pretty good. Like it was a lot easier for me to not dig on a film like Bohemian Rhapsody because I really didn't like Rami Malek's performance as what's his name from Freddie Mercury. So yeah, like Rami Malek's So with like Rami Malek's performance in Bohemian Rhapsody, like I didn't, it felt like he was doing a caricature of Freddie Mercury, so it was easier to despise the film, and it was also like chaotically edited. But with Michael, the performances are actually pretty good here. Like I do like Jafar Jackson's performance. I think he nails it. I think he embodies like a lot of what you would want to see in Michael Jackson and how he would perform. Like there isn't a moment where you feel like you're seeing an impression. There are a few moments towards the beginning where he's just starting out where you kind of see like a caricature emerging, and it thankfully kind of like melts away. The same kind of happens with Coleman Domingo. I thought he was going to get a little bit more cartoonish as the film went along, and it thankfully didn't. I think it kind of just like plateaued with what they wanted to do with them. Everything else, though, is kind of just tossed to the side, and not just like the controversies, but like the rest of the Jackson family, like the mother, Michael's connection with his mother is kind of placed in this simplistic category where it's just his mother's the inspiring words, and his father is just beating him down, pushing him away, and Michael is just struggling to kind of confront him, which is kind of becomes like a running issue with how Michael has to kind of assert himself and find a way to like stand up to his father, even though he's very standoffish. And I think that kind of encapsulates the movie as a whole, where it does want to showcase Michael's artistic brilliance, but also wants to not touch a lot of the darkness. And I think one thing I think that the film does right in this regard is that it really showcases the hype and the popular appeal, where everyone was so dazzled by how how much fame and how much control Michael Jackson had over everything from his music videos to his career to getting stuff on MTV to getting projects going ahead to eventually, standing up to his father. And I think that aspect is intriguing because I think it'd be far too easy to look at Michael Jackson, it'd be far too easy to look at everything that Michael Jackson did and just wonder, how can anybody like this guy? How can anybody listen to his music? And the focus on how obsessed everyone was with his performances in the 80s kind of makes that clear through here. And unfortunately, it doesn't go much further than that, which you'd like to see. And the film kind of sets it up where there might be a continuation where it focuses on the darker part of Michael's life. But if the Jackson estate is involved, I seriously doubt it. I doubt they're going to move forward with that movie. And even if they do, it's just going to be a mess. Like everything about Michael Jackson feels like it's so under lock and key that we're never really going to get that film. And all we're just going to get is a bunch of like great performances and some concert footage, which the performances for the concerts that Antoine Fuqua, one second here. So Antoine Fuqua, I think he does like a pretty good job filming most of the concerts. I like the different angles we get to see of like the production of Thriller and when the Jackson 5 perform. But then there are a lot of sequences where it doesn't have like the same kind of creative control that you would see in a film like Rocket Man or Elvis, where where the directors were taking some stylistic choices to film the celebrity differently. And with Michael, it just feels like a concert film. It's framed like a concert movie. It's shot and edited like a concert film, which I think is an okay route to pursue if you're trying to like embody that era and how a lot of people experience these concerts. But I feel like there's something more you can explore, especially when you have Jafar Jafar has such like a great performance that I feel like you should do something more with that. I feel like there are a lot more emotional beats you can hit. I feel like you can intersect that footage with a lot more of Michael's life. And unfortunately, the movie is just way too standoffish with it and just kind of only looks at like the hype and the fame of it. And it's honestly, it's kind of easy to see how people would get enraptured with it, where the movie is almost kind of like a spell to see how much you can be, how much of Michael Jackson's music can enrapture you, which, for being, if you watch this in IMAX, it's a big experience. And, Jafar's performance just, draws you in with just like the allure and the flash of it all. Even when you realize there's something much more hideous lurking beneath the bedazzled glove. That just wasn't there. So I was a little bit torn. Like when I was watching the film, I was like, yeah, these concert scenes are really nice. Like, I love listening to this music. I think Jackson's performance is really good here. But every time we leave the concert, every time we leave the music, we just kind of get Michael's backstory, which is just like a standard biopic drama that is almost like it's almost like melodrama at times, which is very unfortunate, especially how they keep shoving everybody else in the family to the side. Like, and I understand, like, yes, the focus is all on Michael, but at the same time, when Michael's not on stage, he's not really saying much, and we're not really revealing much more about him outside of the fan perspective. So I think on just like the level of Michael's appeal, I think the film is interesting, but revealing more about his character, it doesn't. So I was initially kind of torn between the film. Like, I liked the concert footage, but the more I thought about it, the more I sat with it, I realized that the film really doesn't have much value beyond just, going out to see like a concert film. It's like, yeah, you like the performances, but not much else than that. And are you going to return to it? Maybe, to listen to a few songs now and then. But in terms of like the drama, I like the performances, but I don't think they're enough to carry a film that isn't willing to touch on the darker aspects of Michael Jackson's life. Which is unfortunate, because I think there might be a better, bigger film to explore here, and unfortunately within its 2 hours it just kind of tightens it around to Michael's greatest hits, which reveals just how profound his music is and how much it still has an impact on people. Like when I was in the theater, everyone was, a lot of big Michael Jackson fans were just going nuts for this film. They were digging it. They were, I was kind of debating if the applause was from the soundtrack or if it was from the audience. Sometimes it was a little bit of both there. So it is going to enrapture some people. But I think there is going to be a questioning once you get out of the theater. You're going to start questioning, wait, how much else was there to Michael that we lost with this chance here, that we might not get until the Jackson estate kind of loses its grip on this story. And I feel like we're probably not going to get that for a while. So on a style level, for just like, I wish the film were just a concert movie where it's just Jafar Jackson just performing all of Michael's hits, and that was it. Because if we just had that, it would just be Michael's greatest hits in the form of a concert movie, and you just get to enjoy the music. Where instead we're given this, basically a mix of a pretty good concert movie and a Michael Jackson biopic that just feels routine and isn't really revealing much, when it feels like there should be more there, especially for somebody so controversial who had such a grip on the world during the 1980s. So yeah, Michael it's an unfortunate waste of really good talent here. And I don't think we're going to get like a really good Michael Jackson film until the Jackson estate lets go of it and is willing to let all the truth spill out. Maybe one day we'll get a really good Michael Jackson movie, but for now, all we've got right here is just kind of a half concert movie that is okay, and drama that just is too scared and too unwilling to touch the subject matter when it really shouldn't. So yeah, Michael is just such a disappointment. Good music, good performances, but a wasted opportunity to explore the king of pop in a way that is willing to kind of, we should be willing to dethrone this man now that he's no longer with us. We should be allowed to have the truth spill out, and unfortunately, it's not in this film. So yeah, Michael will be playing in theaters this weekend. All right, let's take a look at the chat here, because I'm sure we've got a lot. Let's see. Andy Killer says, okay. Dalbertrand says, Mike Flanagan writing the script for Clayface. Love the sound of it. Yeah, I love Flanagan's stuff. So it'll be interesting to see how much he was able to get away with for a Clayface movie. Let's see. Nicholas says they're fully committing to a supervillain horror. It looks like it. I hope that's the case. 2D Guy 434 says, hey, yo, Mark, just wanted to say that you have an issue on your website. There is a slog of text about the plugins at the end of some of your reviews, like Animal Farm. Did it break again? Oh, okay. I'll fix that after. Yeah, for just so everyone knows, there's a plugin I use on the website for Just Watch, which automatically lists when a film is on a streaming service. So that's one of the cool things I like about having on my website, where, if you get to the end and you like it, you can immediately go and watch it on the streaming service if it's available. But if it's not, sometimes it'll just reveal a text that isn't there. It does break for television shows for some reason, but it might have broken again. So I'll take a look at it after the stream. Hector Rodriguez says, I'm a little tired of music biopics. Yeah, and if that's not your jam, this is not going to be one to break out of the mold here, which is sad. Especially, there have actually been some really good musical biopics in the last few years, like Rocket Man and Elvis. I really enjoyed them because they were taking stylistic swings and not afraid to go into the darkest moments while still having all the fantastic music. And it's very childish that Michael wasn't going to go that route. But again, legal problems. And again, it feels very much like, when you make a biopic about somebody and they're still alive and they want to take a lot more ownership of it. Kind of like when they had the the Stephen Hawking biopic, The Theory of Everything. They made that when he was still alive, and it was very flowery, very, very nice to him, very, very much rise, very not so much on the fall as much. And the thing is, it can be done. Like Elton John's still with us, and Rocket Man was fantastic. So It's all a matter of like how much control there is, and unfortunately, the Jackson estate has too many fingers in the pie to let anybody be bold enough. Like it sounded like Fuqua wanted to do more with it and just didn't, which is a shame. There's a big opportunity missed here to be more honest about the King of Pop. Animated 15 says, I heard there's a part 2 of Michael. That's what everyone's saying. It's like, I mean, we'll have to see how the studio and the Jackson State react after the film performs this weekend. It'll probably do very well, but I think it's less a matter of like the performance and more a matter of just if the Jackson Estate wants to go ahead with it. Which, given the fact that they pulled apart that a very controversial scene that would have addressed some of the scandal, I doubt that film is going to come to pass. I think it's going to be locked in production hell forever, with so many notes about what you can and what you can't show about Michael Jackson. So, unfortunately, I think that is going to be all we're going to get, which is really sad, Hetero Rodriguez says, haven't watched Rocket Man, but you sell it to me, I'll put that on my list. Yeah, Rocket Man does a good job transitioning between the different aspects of Elton John's life, and it isn't afraid to confront his obsession with sex and drugs in a way that is both stylish and meaningful. And I think there was one other musical biopic I was going to mention, which was Better Man, the the Robbie Williams one, which framed him as a monkey, which it's like odd choice, but I think it fairly worked. It wasn't perfect. I think it kind of ran into. I get why they included it. It was meant to showcase how Robbie was different from everybody else. And I think for most of the film, I think it works. I think it stops becoming a distraction about 10 or 15 minutes in, and it just feels like you're watching someone's rise to fame in kind of like an unquestioning way. As just viewing this person as someone different, Let's see. Oh, one more for Hector Rodriguez. I think the only musical biopic that I've enjoyed in the past few years was Weird Al Yankovic one, because it was what it was. Yeah, I don't think any film is going to top the Weird Al story, just because it willingly obfuscates and plays around with that fact to such a fun degree that I laughed so much at that. Like, it used to be like, if you wanted that good satire, you'd watch Walk Hard, which Walk Hard is still pretty funny for how many bases it tries to cover. But the fact that Weird Al took ownership of his own story to make it ridiculous and frame himself as being portrayed by Daniel Radcliffe, it's funny and it works. And it's very much on brand for Weird Al, which I think is what would make musical biopics more interesting, is if they are on brand and have that kind of that style. And I think that's what kind of made me love a film like Elvis so much more, is that it kind of embraced that gaudy nature to how Elvis framed himself in both like the style and the editing and how they shot as many concert sequences. So and even with like Rocket Man, like they embrace like, his weird outfits and how he would just kind of like melt away into them. And how it kind of became like an interpretive dance at points. I think that's the key to making a good musical biopic, is that if it does have that intoxicating style that defines that performer. And in a little bit of defense of Michael, there was bits and pieces of it throughout, but I don't think it always felt like the film was pulling back. Like it was just nailing the little points that it had to with the concert footage and then backing off too quickly, which you don't want to do. You want the film to feel like it's embracing that it's digging more into Michael Jackson instead of just being more of like an outsider watching it from the stands like everyone else at the concert. And that's unfortunately what we got. So William Oka says, ever since I watched Walk Hard, I have a hard time with musical biopics. I think most people do. All right, what's next on the docket? Let's see. What should we talk about? Let's do another musical film coming out this weekend. Mother Mary. Let me get my notes up for that. All right, and let me change the screen here. Off to the side. Bit of water. All right, here we go. With Mother Mary in 3, 2, 1. So, Mother Mary is a psychological horror film from David Lowery. But it's a much different film than you would think for what it sets up with the with sorry, I had to clear the throat there. One more take there. Hold on. Oh, summer allergies are coming. All right, one more time here. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. So, Mother Mary is the latest film from David Lowery, which is a psychological horror film that deals with fame. But Mother Mary isn't so much a film about artistic fame descending into dark madness as it is about trying to find a path forward in the aftermath that comes with the erosion of the connections that are set up and destroyed that come with fame. So David Lowery treats art not as a corrupting force, but as a piece of fabric that can be molded and reshaped even after it has brought pain. And through this one more time there. Through this stirring dose of psychological and supernatural horror, that clawing desire for expression is given an abstract yet empathetic form with flashes of paranormal summonings and pop star power throughout. So the film is about a conflict between the clothing designer of Sam, played by Michaela Cole, and the hit singer of Mother Mary, played by Anne Hathaway. Now, despite Mother Mary's portrayal, she finds herself... one more time there. Yeah. So, despite Mother Mary's portrayal, she finds herself... Dang it, one more time there. Sorry. All right. Now, despite how Mother Mary is portrayed as this huge pop sensation... one more time... Now, despite how Mother Mary is portrayed as this huge pop sensation, like you see a little bit of her concert footage in the beginning of the movie, she finds herself desperately pleading with Sam to make her a new outfit. And while Mary is coy about the details for this new dress, Sam comes to realize that she's mending more than just a dress. Like, there's clearly a connection that was broken that needs to be fixed or resolved. So their dialogue amid a rustic design studio becomes a cunning... one more time there. Their dialogue amid a one more time there. Their dialogue amid a rustic design studio becomes a cunning battle of earnest words, blistering... Words? Sorry, I'm trying to get my plans here. So their dialogue amid this rustic design studio, which is where they spend most of the movie, becomes a cunning battle of earnest words that are blistering with bitterness and bluntness. And that simmering tension is broken by displays of Mary's exhaustive dancing and Sam's imagination for designs that can never shake that halo from behind Mary's head. So Lowery's assembly of a relationship in repair starts with the restraint of a one-set play, and then progressively weaves into the surreal. So, like, the marketing for this film features posters that stress this is not a ghost story, and it's accurate. This is not a, traditional story about ghosts. There are summonings for spirits, but they're not spirits that can be easily defined. It's not like this is a creature with a soul, or, something like a ghost story with someone with a sheet over them, or, like a transparent soul of somebody. So, like, the spooky something becomes that nagging sensation of egotism and the uncomfortable feeling of fame's suffocating box. So if Mary's handful of concert sequences look and sound... What we're now at. And so, like, the ghost itself is just kind of like this ball of fabric that kind of looks like something out of like a David Lynch film. And the interesting thing about this movie is that when you go through it, like, piece by piece, you start kind of seeing aspects of so many inspirations throughout. Like, when I saw the this fabric spirit or representation of a bond between the two characters, I was just thinking David Lynch. And when you look at Mother Mary's concert footage, I was thinking, oh, this kind of looks like Lady Gaga with how she's with how her songs play, the set design that she has for the concert, the kind of provocative clothing that she's wearing. So I was getting Lady Gaga vibes. But as I learned, I was getting Lady Gaga vibes, but as I learned later, Lowry actually took inspiration from Taylor Swift, and for Anne Hathaway's part, she was inspired by Beyonce. So there's all these different elements at play here, and especially when you look at like the paranormal aspects of ghost summoning, you could probably think of like, stuff like Exorcist, or other psychological horror films. You could probably list a few inspirations here, and you might not be wrong. But what I love so much about Lowry's direction here is that it never just feels like it's a patchwork. Like you can see the seams of kind of like a Frankenstein's monster of a movie being stitched together. There's this kind of seamless. There's a seamless kind of like melding of all these different elements of like a pop concert and a supernatural horror and like interpretive dance and spirituality and all these different components that kind of melt together into this very, very compelling film that even though you could like list the ingredients, it feels like something much different, something much more cohesive, that's trying to touch on something that's a little bit hard to define. And I think that that Lowry was trying to like bring that out through establishing the pain that art can bring and how you can use it to heal afterwards. So yeah, there's a lot of inspirations here. Just I need to go back to that one part again. Sorry. So like the look and feel of the spirit that binds the two women, like I said, it's very David Lynch in how it's like vague and shimmering and has this very eerie quality, and just everything involved from like the weird violence, the grotesque nature. Like at one point there are scenes of like fingers going into bodies and teeth being pulled out and just, moments of just, of contorting bodies and stuff like that. I think Lowry he does a really good job at this juggling act for a film that manages to pull off one more time. The film really is one more time that. The movie really is a juggling act with how it tries to pull off this grounding that one more time. The movie really is a juggling act for pulling off very grounded, one more time. Sorry, one more time. I know I'm going to edit this later. Don't worry about it. So the movie pulls off this very fantastic juggling act where it has dialogue that feels very grounded, but it's also willing to experiment with metaphors, but also kind of highlight this uncertainty and this vagueness that is almost like too scary to address, but you can feel the characters just like they're drawn to it. Like there's this very intoxicating nature that they're approaching something that is very uncomfortable and something they don't want to address, but that they have to, and there's just this thread between them that you want to see pull them closer and closer together, so that they can see eye to eye instead of being driven apart by the art that has inspired them. Now, while Hathaway fits the pop star presence, there is a haunting quality to Michaela Cole. I really liked her performance. I like how she speaks with a controlled confidence as she pulls the strings of her client, and I just love how her large eyes seem like she's staring deep into your soul, especially anytime like the camera like faces her front on, which is just, it's a little bit terrifying, but you're also intrigued. You also want to see like what is she seeing? What is Sam seeing in Mary? Because you know that she's seeing some strange vision of her and this connection that she wants to mend, that she wants to tackle in some way. And you kind of just want to see the camera get closer and closer and just stare deep into her eyes. So there is certainty in her words and the boldness in her the certainty in her words and the boldness in her remarks allow her to easily weave stories of pulling out teeth and make it seem as though ghost summoning is just like a side hobby that she has. The vulnerability that she is willing to expose also is very emotional and physical, and it makes her performance as intoxicating as Hathaway's stage command in her tight outfits and provocative musical numbers. Because I thought for sure those scenes would probably be the weakest, but they're actually pretty good. It is very believable as kind of a pop icon that you could see today. And I like how the film never just focuses on the popularity and the fame and like the social media hits and all that. It permeates a little bit of the film here and there, but it never becomes like the driving force. It always feels like this film is seeking something more than just the artificial. Like it's trying to tap into a deeper connection that we have to art beyond just, the promotion and the fans and and social media and the dresses and the music. Like there's something much more to it that I think Lowry is attempting to explore. And for the most part, I think he does a really good job with it. It molds the horror of fame into a bold new form that of what happens. One more time with that. The movie is this. The movie molds the horror of fame into a bold new form of what happens after the pop and pain have fizzled. And it might be easy to describe the film as a quilt of various ghost pictures and glamorous music sensations, but that wouldn't define the film's mesmerizing usage of such materials. In the same way that Mary searches for a renewed identity that can be so easily divulged with costume details, Lowry also wants to tap into something more than just a ghost story with cursed fabric. We already have films like that, so through a surreal lens, the film finds something remarkable, even when the seams are visible in the bleeding of genres and sets. It's musically engaging, darkly mysterious, and laced with some sharp jabs of amusement for a movie where two women start it's a movie where two women start talking about their feelings and end up summoning a ghost in the end. And it feels it doesn't feel like a weird twist. It feels like it's just the natural flow of a weird and compellingly just psychologically thrilling stories such as this. So, Mother Mary, I don't think it's up there with David Lowery's best work, but I think it is taking some risks, and it does take some hard swings, very much some polarizing swings. Like it kind of like starts as a play, it seems like it starts off as like as a play for being contained to one location, and then as it goes on, you start seeing it get weirder and stranger, and it's trying to like tap into something much more profound. And for doing that, I think David Lowery's Mother Mary is actually a really good film that mixes the existential dread that we all face with the allure that we attach to it with fame and pop culture. So yeah, Mother Mary was such an intoxicatingly weird film that I'm absolutely thrilled that David Lowery was willing to take some risks with it. So yeah, I actually really dug Mother Mary. So Mother Mary will be in theaters this weekend. So if you want a better film about pop music, go check that out. All right. Let's see. The chat just stopped there because I put it on stop there. But take 42. Grab some summer, I did take some allergy medicine today, but I think it might be wearing off. Let's see. Need some allergic meds. Let's see. Hector Rodriguez says, "Oh, I am 100% against this movie. They did the real band very dirty. Did they? Oh no. Damn, that sucks to hear." Cage Exana says, "Who would win in a fight between Star-Lord and Buzz Lightyear?" I don't know. Maybe Star-Lord, because Buzz Lightyear's a toy. I don't know. Maybe Star-Lord. See, Animated 15 says, "I can see Beyonce. Yeah, the lady loves production for her tours. Yeah, it has elements of that, but like I think it was like the colors that reminded me more of Lady Gaga. It's that very kind of like that kind of like neon glow, and the focus on the leather and the leather type suits and all that." Is symbiosis the word you're looking for? I think so. Yeah, I think that'd have been a better word. There's a real band called Mother Mary formed in 2016 by two sisters that escaped a religious cult, and they make dark electronic pop, and they use a lot of Christian imagery. Oh, wow. They gave them no credit. Oh, damn. Not only that, now if you try to Google the band, it gives you the movie first. Hmm. Oh, damn. That sucks. Oh, God. It's always that tough legal battle when you're trying to, like, someone has, like, a similar... And I understand, like, it's... I'm sure it wasn't David Lowery just, it's like, oh, looking at the band, oh, that's a good idea, I think I'll take it. I think he was, given the religious iconography of, like, the character and how it's set up, I think it was more trying to find the spiritual. He might have been able to name it something different, maybe, but I think he... Oh, God. What a mess. Heterogamy says, I know, but there's no reason that the band in the movie is called that, knowing that there's already a real band. I guess in fairness, I guess it's not technically a band. I think it's just like a singer's name. If, I don't know, technically a difference. For whatever that may be worth. But yeah, legal name and stuff like that. It's messy too, because then what if it's like how much ownership do you take of that if if it's that divergent for like a premise like Mother Mary? I think it's Father Joseph. It's like, is it a religious epic or is it a band movie? And if it's a band movie, do you need to pay them even if is it close enough to the band? I don't. That whole legal kerfuffle is, oh god, that's a mess. I'd have to look into it a little bit more. But from what you're saying, it sounds like the band got a little dirty there. But more from like a legal standpoint. I would have to see their performances, but I doubt it's on the same level of what Anne Hathaway was doing in that film. From what you described, from like how the band is set up, it sounds like it might be a little different. From what you described, for all I know, if I watch it, it might be exactly the same. But I'd have to check it in order to bring some attention to the matter. Okay. Well, hopefully it works out for them. Let's see here. Kajixana says, The Blue Lagoon is an incredibly skeevy movie, but if there's one legitimately good thing that came out of it, is that it inadvertently helped with the discovery of a rare species of iguana. Yeah, if the film can have some purpose, yeah, I was never that a fan of The Blue Lagoon. I always found it pretty dumb. Yep, seeing the Clayface trailer, looks amazing. Scorn says, I'm debating on seeing the new Faces of Death. I like how it's using the original film as a key plot item, but I'm not super big on snuff films, unless it's Nick Cage. I'm a little bit curious about it, only just because, I never liked Faces of Death. I thought it was just kind of like a gimmick of a horror film, just like show all this shocking stuff. So anything, I think this is one of those cases where everyone says, if you're going to remake a film, remake a bad film. I think this is a case where I'd like to see that remake. Because I've heard it's pretty damn good. And my expectations for Faces of Death is really, really low. So I'm sure it's a pretty good film. J-Fon says, Joseph is getting cucked out of having kid. Now he is cucked out of being iconoclast. Yeah. Hector Rodriguez says, they're really good, by the way. I'm biased here. I love dark electronic. I might check it out. Yep. I dig electronica. All right. Clear my throat here. All right, we have two more films. What, do we have two more films? Yeah, I think so. Let's cover an action film. Let's cover Normal. All right, let's get everything set up here. Starring Bob Odenkirk. All right. Here we go with normal in 3. 1 second here. Little itch. All right. 3, 2, 1. So Normal is another action film starring Bob Odenkirk, once again kicking a lot of ass. Now, when this film ended, there was a jovial man sitting next to me in the theater, and he wanted to tell me which movies that Normal reminded him of. And I immediately knew the films he was going to reference. He was going to bring up Hot Fuzz, he was going to bring up Fargo, he was going to bring up John Wick. And yeah, I could see it on the screen as well. But even with all the familiar movie ingredients, this explosive stew comes together. But even with all the familiar movie ingredients, this explosive stew comes together rather well with its darkly comedic charm of dumping guns, explosives, and the Yakuza into a small town Minnesota setting. So Bob... One more time. Okay. So Bob Odenkirk proves that... One more time. So Bob Odenkirk proves to have a comfort level in the action genre when portraying the Sheriff Ulysses. He's kind of in a little bit of the same element that he was in Nobody, but I like him much more in this role because it doesn't feel like... my biggest problem with the Nobody movies is that it always felt like his character was trying to come to terms with his masculinity and just kind of resolved it by killing a lot of people. But his character of Ulysses, he doesn't have that problem in this film. In the movie, he acts as an interim sheriff for the small town of Normal, Minnesota, and he's just kind of hoping for an easygoing job in a small town to clear his head and maybe rekindle his failing marriage. And for a few days, it seems to be just what the doctor ordered as he handles traffic disputes and complaints over store inventory. But there's clearly something amiss with the mysterious death of the previous mayor. Sorry, not the mayor. One more time with that. But there's clearly something amiss with the mysterious death of the previous sheriff, the absurd amount of money raised for the community, and a general offness to how the population is both chipper and vague. There's too much Minnesota nice for this to be a simple town, and sure enough, something sinister lurks under the snowy surface, and the eccentric mayor played by Henry Winkler. Now, for a script by Derek Kolstad, who wrote the previous Odenkirk action films of Nobody and Nobody 2, there is plenty of action, and one can expect plenty to be telegraphed in the first act. There's a lot of allusions to like different guns and different materials and lots of money and the Yakuza being involved, so there's lots of stuff to get excited for later in the film. But thankfully, the film embraces the uncertainty of a situation that keeps getting messier. The mantra of Ulysses throughout this movie is that calm cleans messy, and wow, what a marvelous mess this movie turns out to be, with how the best laid plans for all parties involved just blow up in their faces with just the corruption and the heroism that's involved here. Scenes of banks riddled with bullets, streets blowing up with dynamite, and a yarn store with knitting needles being stabbed into people's eyes. It's so much fun, and it's very exciting, and you don't have to wait for the third act for all that to happen. It all blows up in the second act, and it leaves you wondering, oh, well, if this is all happening in the second act, where is this gonna go in the third? Is it just gonna keep snowballing and get weirder and messier? And thankfully it does. And credit to director Ben Wheatley, who finds just the right moments for humor beyond the slapstick of exploding bodies and chaotic fights, and bringing some real charm to what could have been a tiresomely apathetic protagonist that switches gears when he's in the crosshairs. There are some fun quirks in the town with the chipper. There's a chipper deputy of Mike, played by Billy McLennan, and Billy just wanted to have that. There are some quirks of the town with a chipper deputy of Mike, played by Billy McClellan, who wants to just look cool and wear this like spiffy leather jacket. And then there's the very eager deputy Blaine, played by Ryan Allen, who really does want to be the new sheriff, but kind of has to prove himself beyond just taking charge. But I think what made me love Odenkirk so much in this film is But I think what made me love Odenkirk so much in this movie was that were his desires one minute of that. But I think what made me love Odenkirk so much in this movie was his desires that were more within reach. Because, like I said, his character in Nobody and Nobody 2 always felt like he was unworthy of manhood. And it's an aspect that kind of blurs as the film goes along. But Ulysses is a fairly quiet guy who is just seeking some comfort and is easygoing enough to make small talk with everybody from bartenders to bank robbers, even when he's being shot at. He takes life one day at a time, and when cornered by crooked cops and vicious gangsters, he just fights his way out, one shootout at a time, making it up as he goes along, just trying to survive moment to moment, rather than building an elaborate set piece. Because as you see in the film, all the plans that he makes kind of blow up in his face, and even though he ends up surviving, you're just kind of like, oh, he just barely got out. And because like in Nobody 2, you saw all the plans laid out, and they mostly went according to what he set up. And with Normal, a lot of what he sets up kind of doesn't work and just kind of blows up in his face in a very unexpected way. Now, for what could have been another ho-hum John Wick clone, Normal is baked with enough Midwest spice to be something more refreshing with its bombastic violence. There's a lot that gets tossed at the screen with so many characters and twists that some either, they either peter out or they get lost in the shuffle, but it's that level of unpredictability that keeps the film humming along with gleeful grit and colorful enough characters, more amusing for their tongue-in-cheek personalities than how well they explode into chunks. Although, to be fair, you will see a lot of characters just explode in very surprising and shocking and kind of darkly fun ways. There's just as much effort put into it. There's just as much effort put There's just as much effort put into the absurdity of the scenario as there is into the high body count, with Odenkirk's warm and weary nature just nestling nicely into this film. It was also a relief to see a Minnesota set movie that didn't fall back on exaggerated accents for its comedy of like, oh, don't you know, and you betcha. I think we're a little bit past that point of, framing every Minnesotan film like Fargo. And it just refuses to take... The movie just refuses to take the easy route, and that prevents the film from being as easily pinned down as Hot Fuzz with a Fargo flavor, making the movie more of its own original hot dish of Odenkirk action comedy. So yeah, I surprisingly, for someone who was very lukewarm on Odenkirk and Nobody 2, I actually really dug Normal, just for all the risks that it took and just how perfectly and how comfortable Bob Odenkirk is in such like a delightful and unpredictable action romp such as this. So yeah, Normal is quite a bit of fun. Normal should be playing in a few theaters, I think, still this weekend. If you haven't seen it yet, go check it out. It is a lot of fun. Let's see. Scorn says, one moment. I skimmed a bit of the original Faces of Death on Shudder, and much like Cannibal Holocaust, I can't stomach the fact that the real animal deaths things are in it. Yeah, that's why I said, like I said, it was meant for shock value. It's the same with Cannibal Holocaust. The draw of Cannibal Holocaust, it's just the controversy and the grossness of it, more than anything else. Yeah, I know my voice is getting worse. I think the problem is I project too much just because I don't want to. I want it to like sound. I want to bring the enthusiasm here because I am excited about this stuff, but I need to kind of like project it more so that so I'm not just like doing like the dull, tired voice that you hear on YouTube. I don't like that. It makes you sound less enthusiastic, and I am. It's like I need to make that more clear. But yeah. I think I didn't bring enough tea this time. I've got a decent amount of lemon tea, but I think I drank a little too much of it but before I came on stream here. And I do have, actually, let me grab the bag here. But I'll take the precaution so everyone knows that I'm not intentionally damaging myself here. I got the cough drops here to help. So William Ocast says, I can't wait to see it. Oh yeah, Normal's really fun. If you, especially if you really liked Nobody and Nobody 2, you will love it. I do hot tea, honey, and lemon. Yeah. Actually, yeah. I didn't do honey this time. I did it last time. I probably should do that more. But when I was doing the panels at Anime Detour, where I do much more talking than I do on this stream, I started doing what I heard voice actors do, which was I got lemon tea, and then you add honey, and then you add cough drops to it. So you it's basically like you add everything to it. So what I did was I doubled up on it. I did 2 bags of lemon tea. I did 2 cough drops, and I did I think a tablespoon of honey at one point. And I think that did the trick, because I have done panels at Detour where I entirely lost my voice for a day. And thankfully that helped. I love hot lemon and honey tea with a cough drop or peppermint thrown in, yeah. I did have peppermint on ham too. That's the other thing I have too. I have like Tic Tacs and peppermints here as well to help out with that. So, just let everyone know I am taking precautions. I'm trying. It's just sometimes I forget, and I gotta remind myself. Well, yeah, I gotta drink more tea. Gotta keep the voice up, you know. Let's see. Read through some more chats here. 100% against this one too. They did the real normal tree. Joking. Actually, I think they did a fairly good job depicting. Speaking as Minnesotan, I think they did an okay job depicting a small town. Like you can hear the accent if you listen closely, and it's not forced enough, and it feels very believable instead of like being played up as exaggerated. Now, of course, it's not as present in Odenkirk, and I do like that Odenkirk is an outsider. So he doesn't have to try with the Midwest accent, which is good, because all the other like side players do a really good job of portraying that Minnesotan accent by making it believable. I will say this though, when I went to go see the preview screening, they told us that there's a special message from Bob Odenkirk that he recorded just for the Twin Cities. Which, for those who don't know, Minnesota Twin Cities is Minneapolis and St. Paul. You know, it's kind of like Dallas and Austin. You know, they kind of connect the two. It was just like a vertical video where Bob Odenkirk came on and said, "Oh hey, Twin Cities, I hope you like normal. Yeah, this is your town." I guess it wasn't anything funny. It was just it felt like something quick that he filmed on his phone. I was like, okay, whatever. So that happened. I watched the film. I liked it. I came home, and the first thing I did was put a review on Letterboxd. And immediately after, I don't know if this is still active, but if anyone goes to see this and then logs a review, tell me if this is still active. But if you go on to Letterboxd and you post your review, like you write it up, you give the star rating, and then you hit save,
you will ride eternal, shiny and chrome.
Something like that happens. A video will play where Bob Odenkirk says, "Oh, thanks for reviewing my movie." It's like, how many of these did he record? Like, I have thought, like, if I go to my WordPress blog and I publish my review, is like another video of Bob gonna pop up? It's like, hey, thanks for putting the review on. If I go to Bluesky and do it, it's like, hey, thanks. I'm half expecting Bob Odenkirk to just come out of my computer right now and just say, hey, thanks for streaming about my movie. Freshest breath on YouTube. Yeah, if you can smell it, Also, thank you for following there, William Lambert. All right, we got one more review here left to do, and it's the one I'm regretting most. It's a picture of William H. Macy. Oh yeah, you betcha. Not gonna lie, Martin Joe description. Yeah. While I'm finishing up this cop drop, just to let y'all know, the alerts, I have set up the alerts so that they will play movie quotes. And this goes for all the alerts. This goes for follows, This goes for membership. This goes for super chats. There's even one I think I have for the Patreon as well. So any like super chats or follows or stuff like that will pop up just like random movie quotes like that. And I've set it to random. I think I've set up like about 30 or 40. So I have no idea what's going to come up. For all I know, Bob Odenkirk might come up. It's like, hey, thanks for subscribing to this film critic who reviewed my movie. All right, let's wash it down. I wonder if Normal followed the same route Arnold Schwarzenegger followed in Jiggle All the Way. No, he's only in Normal. He never ventures out to the Twin Cities. And they have a good cover for that by having it set during a snowstorm. So it could look like any town. The Homer Simpson one is super loud. Yeah, I took the Homer Simpson one off. So don't worry. Don't worry. I know Homer Simpson scared the hell out of all of you. Don't worry. Homer's gone now. Homer can't hurt you. I have taken... Homer is banned from our alerts. Just watch the original Animal Farm. Yeah. Well, either the original animated version or the TV movie is actually it's okay. It's not the best. Like, I still like the original cartoon version, but it's an okay adaptation, especially when compared to this. All right, so let's review Animal Farm here. Let me change the screen. All right, in 3, 2, 1. So Andy Serkis's Animal Farm is maybe one of the worst adaptations of George Orwell's classic novel. Now, look, kids can handle reading Animal Farm. And sure, it's a dark book, and children are not going to directly trace the allegory to Stalin's rise mid-World War II, but the framing of a dictatorship through a pig's hypocritical governance is easy to read. And I have faith in kids that can read and digest that story, that watching it... And I have faith that kids, that they can read and digest that story, and to, just watch it being contorted into a family-friendly animated movie is more than just a gross commercialization of the revered George Orwell book. Damn, I garbled it one more time there. I have faith in kids that they can read and digest that story, I have enough faith, that's what I was saying. I have enough faith in kids that can read and digest that story that watching it being contorted into a family-friendly animated movie is just... It's just a gross commercialization of George Orwell's book. This is an insult to its young audience, especially for... This is an insult to its young audience, especially for not having the CGI guts to proceed with the radical revisions that it wants to have. So, director Andy Serkis seemed to approach this material with more thought put into the animal antics than the allegories. It's a cartoon with running jokes about sheep that repeat themselves, snarky roosters, and farting pigs. Even with the familiar characters and quotes from the book, you can feel the kid-friendly Even with the familiar characters and quotes from the book, you can just feel the kid-friendly sanitization. One more time. Even with the familiar characters and quotes from the book, you can just feel the kid-friendly sanitization. Fuck, one more time. Even with the familiar characters and quotes from the book, you can feel the kid-friendly nature just coating the story where booze is I garbled it one more time. Even with the familiar characters and quotes from the book, you can feel the kid-friendly nature coding the story where booze is referred to as naughty juice. After a revolt against the farmer, Jones is portrayed as more comical than revolutionary, complete with a rap song that mentions Old MacDonald. It's odd choice. We get the familiar staging of the thoughtful pig Snowball, voiced by Laverne Cox, promoting a farm with equality, and the greedy pig Napoleon, played by Seth Rogen, essentially rewriting those laws of equality. And rather than having children watch the rise and fall of a tyrant, the movie introduces the plucky pig of Lucky, voiced by Gaten Matarazzo, I think pronouncing that correctly. One more time. Rather than having the children watch the rise and fall of a tyrant, the movie introduces the plucky pig of Lucky, who points out the obvious inconsistencies in Napoleon's logic while also being drawn to the perks of such a system. And in case that wasn't enough, the film is also narrated by the horse Boxer, voiced by Woody Harrelson, which, in addition to serving as an embodiment of the working class, he's also the narrator, which is a very odd choice if you're familiar with what happens to Boxer in the book. And more or less the same events happen in the film the way that they do in the book, which makes his narration very baffling at times. So, considering Orwell's earnestness in his writing, this adaptation is just a tonal nightmare. Moments of levity are grossly depicted through ho-hum punchlines and needle drops, sometimes literally gross, with Napoleon's farting while talking about freedom. Even Seth Rogen's iconic laugh is exhausted to the point where even the script is mocking it. The music choices are just strange, as when the temptation of the food that the animals are getting, that's meant to be framed as selling out, is punctuated by the theme song from The Price is Right. It's like, what are you doing here? And then there are scenes of animals tragically dying off screen, and it's lessened by scenes of the pigs partying it up in the farmhouse, with pop music and playing with cool gadgets, just making it seem like the pigs are fun to hang out with and just, having a ball and not stressing the darkness of the situation. And the passages of the book that are quoted, they are in the movie. One more time with that. The passages of the book that are quoted in the movie run in sharp contrast to the rest of the dialogue, which waters down the talk about mankind and greed and authoritarianism into very childish punchlines. And here's my biggest problem with the film. The biggest crime with a picture... One more time with that. The biggest crime with a movie like this is how it shifts the allegory away from communism and into the more modern concern of capitalism. And that shift, it could be interesting if it weren't if it weren't pursued in such a tiresome manner and with a hypocritical conclusion. So driving home more of the capitalist critique is the inclusion of the corrupt human CEO of Frida Pilkington, voiced by Glenn Close, working alongside her accounting cohort of Whymper, played by Steve Buscemi. And those familiar with the book will note that Pilkington was one of the many farmers that Napoleon dealt with, known for being too laid back and letting his farm suffer. Frida, by comparison, has built a cold and efficient operation for power generation and animal harvesting, where her problems are not the dire state of her land, but a lack of money. And just, it feels like too much of a cartoonish depiction of a greedy CEO. And just how I wish, this film includes a Cybertruck, and how I wanted to see it falter and burst into flames, or watching her AI and her drones just malfunction and just reveal how ineffective this technology is, that the animals would want to turn away from it, but no such luck. Frida just remains as the stock villain with just tech mogul tantalizations and nothing else, nothing more than that. So any hope of a compelling restructuring of the material just tumbles off a cliff when the film reaches the point where the book ends. So you might know the scene I'm talking about, where the animals watch the humans and the pigs cavort with each other, and they start looking at them. It's like, I can't tell the difference between pig and man. But fortunately, or unfortunately for us, Lucky is there to make the distinction and realizes, no, we need to lead our own revolution against Napoleon, which just results in a silly attempt to make the pig look bad, to make Napoleon look bad, and dismantle his monstrous new dam project. And the resulting chase and battle between Lucky and Napoleon is not one of a failed socialist revolution biting back against the monstrous elements of late-stage capitalism, but just a battle between a noble pig and a greedy pig. The movie even doubles down on its messaging with Lucky stating that the lessons learned is... One minute. The movie even double... Yes. But the movie pulls back on its messaging, with Lucky stating that the lesson learned is that we should help people not because we have to, but because we have to want to. And the fact that Napoleon refused to help the starving animals is written off as a failure of, it's not... One more time with that. The fact that Napoleon refused to help the starving animals is written off not as a failure of going against equality, but as just being a case of one bad apple. And while the book ended with a warning of unquestioning communist devotion, the movie ends with the hopeful suggestion that capitalism just has a few more kinks to work out before we can get that faulty equality feature working. Just we need to keep working on it. So don't worry about capitalism. It's like, if you're going to make the film anti-capitalist, go all the way. Make it more of a dire warning. Stress the evils of it and focus. There are correlations between that and the book that are not taken advantage of here. And the film just kind of settles into having these silly little wacky animal antics in case like the kids get bored with this story about corrupting power, which, yeah, why would kids like that, So in the same way that Napoleon rewrites the commandments of animalism, Andy Serkis has rewritten Animal Farm into a hideous distortion that betrays Orwell's messaging. This movie falls back on mere fluff in how it diverges from the allegories of communism, while at the same time pulling back on its capitalist critique before something profound is reached. And all we're left with is a film that showcases the wacky stuff that animals can do if they control the farm, posed in a way that would be a gag on 30 Rock for being such a terrible idea. And kids deserve better than this. Just read the book, kids. It's not that long, and it's far more entertaining than the mindless mash of pig and poop jokes that this film throws at you. So, yeah, this is just an insulting animated film that goes against what Orwell wrote, and what it tries to revise, it does not have the guts to go ahead and make it anti-capitalist when it really should. And it just ends up becoming this kind of very liberal stance on capitalism, just reminding you of just how vile it is to see Orwell's Animal Farm contorted into this family it's just vile to watch Animal Farm being contorted into this family-friendly CGI film that is just too chicken shit to confront real issues of authoritarianism. So yeah, I really despised Andy Serkis's Animal Farm. So Animal Farm, if you want to torture yourselves, if you want to watch it for yourself and see how bad it is, it will be in theaters next week. So yeah. Read some of the chat here. Can't sleep. Homer will eat me. If you should die before you wake. Heterogu says, "Oh, I just watched a trailer that made me excited. Coyote versus Acme. I'm looking forward to it. I would love to see. And it does something that I'm very excited for it, because I think it's doing something that I did not expect for a film like this to do. I thought the film for sure was going to be like very much like The Day the Earth Blew Up, where it was just going to be a legal battle between Coyote and Roadrunner and maybe one or two other characters. This film feels like it's going to wrap in a bunch of different characters, but into a legal thriller setting that becomes all encompassing of Acme as a brand that affects all the other Looney Tunes characters. And how could you not be excited for that? That sounds like a fantastic film. Even if it's bad, like the premise alone is intriguing. And I would love to see how it comes together. Especially with Foghorn Leghorn as like an intimidating kind of southern lawyer. That's pitch perfect cast. That's what I want to see in a Looney Tunes film. I want to see characters play up to a type. I want to see them not just as like, the characters doing their usual stuff, but playing more characters, like in The Day the Earth Blew Up. I want to see, Porky and Daffy as like factory workers. I want to see Foghorn Leghorn as a lawyer. I want to see Coyote as like a defendant in court against Acme. That's funny stuff. You could do much more with the Looney Tunes characters than just their same old bits. You can put them in many different scenarios. And I hope, I know that this is kind of like the last of the Looney Tunes projects that has been saved, but hopefully in the future we can get more like it. We'll have to see. Campzilla says, when I saw the trailer for Animal Farm, it seemed like the greatest case of missing the point, since Don Bluth adapted Chanterland, crudely grafted Elvis, Wizard of Oz, and Roger Rabbit onto it. Yeah, Rockadoodle. Yep, I knew which one you were talking about. And I actually remember watching Rockadoodle when it first came out when I was a kid, and I remember just being confused by it. I had so many questions, like, wait, how does this work? How did they get into the world? How is his song gonna affect the sun? How does it's a dumb premise. I think the time, Rhodey says, I think the timing is perfect for Coyote versus Acme. I immediately thought of Drake and Afroman. Oh, yeah. Especially for a film that's been shelved, to just have that perfect timing with it. Yeah. How could you not want to see that film, yeah? Jay says, I won't even pirate Animal Farm. Centrist crap. Yeah. It very much is. Scorn says, I'm waiting for Animal Farm to hit the download circuit and make it a worst of the year marathon with my buddies as we make fun of it, just like Snow White and War of the Worlds from last year. It's going to be grueling. It's just, it's dull. I mean, if you want, you could have a game for trying to find the pieces of dialogue that are lifted from the novel. You could probably have a drinking game with that, because there are quite a few passages that are repeated verbatim from the book. They're not explored well, but they're there. There's the artifice of Orwell's writing in there. Mr. Mira says, hello, I hope they release Batgirl 2. I hope so too. And I'm hyped for Clayface. Love body horror. Yeah. Hopefully they go all the way. Hopefully Flanagan was able to get to go much further with it. Hopefully he gave them as much of the runaround as Todd Phillips did to do what he wants. That's my only concern. My only concern is that Flanagan was not allowed to go far enough. That's my only worry about the film. Because if they do, then we're going to have something really fascinating on our hands. A really good DC horror movie. Let's see. Nina says, and at least Warner Brothers is giving at least promotion for Coyote versus Acme rather than just give it little to no advertising for The Day the Earth Blew Up. Yeah, the Day the Earth Blew Up, God, they really messed up with that. I think they were trying to get audiences interested in it, because I remember like it went to like many festivals during 2024. And I remember like towards the end of 2024, we actually did get a screener copy for it. So I reviewed the film very early to try to get the word out early. And I think enough people some people were confused that I posted it that early, because I was initially told that it was going to be, I think, February when it was going to come out. So I said, okay, yeah, it's going to come out in February. And they got pushed back to March. And there's like, why is it March? Like, I don't know. Talk to Ketchup Entertainment. They keep pushing it back. That's all I knew about it. Noah says, I can't wait for Coyote vs. Acme. I have high hopes for it. Yeah. I do too. Let's hope it's good. Let's hope it was just shelved for the tax purposes and not for any other reason. Not for any reason to do with the film itself and its quality. which hopefully it's not. I mean, from what I've seen, it looks fantastic. I think the cell shaded animation I think merges really well. I thought it was going to be off putting, but I think they nailed it. All right, so let's see. Nina says, and I've just learned. Oh no, it's just from Hector. It says, and I've just learned that the movie exists. Great job. Well, at least they're getting the trailers out there now, because I remember the trailers for The Day the Earth Blew Up didn't arrive until like maybe a month out. Like there was promotional material out there, but not any like big promotions of like TV spots or posters until much later, unfortunately. So they are jumping on this early now. Like the movie's coming out in August. They've got like a good 4 months before it comes out. So they're hopping on it now. Good on them. Because we should have that movie. It shouldn't have been shelved in the first place. We should have seen this film like 2 years ago. And we unfortunately didn't. So, all right, let's do a quick recap of the movies we reviewed on today's stream. We talked about Michael, the Michael Jackson biopic. It has some fine performances from Jafar Jackson and Coleman Domingo, but it fails to address any of Michael Jackson's controversies and just runs into routine biopic drama that goes throughout. So yeah, a bit of a big disappointment there. We also reviewed Animal Farm, Andy Serkis's attempt to adapt George Orwell's work, but not only fails in trying to address the allegory of Stalin's communism, but doesn't even go forward with its capitalism critique. So yeah, just huge swing and a miss. Barely even a swing. It just kind of makes a terrible, wacky cartoon out of Animal Farm. The worst result. I reviewed Mother Mary, David Lowery's psychological horror film about a pop singer and a designer who try to mend their relationship while making contact with an otherworldly spirit. It's strange, it's weird, and it has intoxicating dialogue throughout that just enraptured me. Fantastic film. And finally, we reviewed Normal, a Bob Odenkirk film about a small town Minnesota and guns and corruption and explosions and brutality and Yakuza. What more could you want? It's a really fun movie. So I think of all 4 films I reviewed today, Normal and Mother Mary are really good. So if you want something to watch right now, go out and see Normal. It's a lot of fun, action comedy. And if you want to see something horrific and strange and a little bit weird, go see Mother Mary. I really had a lot of fun with the dialogue in that film. So there are some good choices. If you don't want to, like the Michael movie is probably going to be a hit, so all the theaters are going to be packed. So go see Mother Mary. The theater will not be as filled. Maybe. We'll have to see. Yeah, and Normal for sure probably won't be as filled. So yeah, 2 good options to go see at the theater. So if you'd like to read reviews of the movies I talked about today, you can go to movieswithmark.com to read all of them there. I'll have reviews of these posted later. And if you enjoyed the stream hearing about the latest movies, be sure to give this a like, and be sure, if you're not already, subscribe so that you can be informed about the latest movies as they come out. Because we had an early review of Animal Farm, comes out next week, and we had early reviews of Michael and Mother Mary. So plenty more coming up over the horizon. We have May coming up. Plenty of big films. We got Supergirl. We've got, what else? We got tons of stuff. We got Toy Story. Trying to think of stuff that's not just sequels. The sequel stuff just gets pushed to the top easier. But we got plenty of big movies coming out. So, especially if you enjoyed the stream and you want early access to the video essays that I've been writing, and there's a lot. There's like 4 in the works right now. Check out the Patreon below. Patreon will not only give you access to early access to those videos, but also access to my movie history books. I'm working on a series of banned movies that I'm collaborating these essays into a book, and patrons at the higher levels will get a physical copy and digital copy of the book when it's done. So lots of stuff in the works. I'll be back in roughly about 2 weeks to talk about the new movies that we got coming out in May. And it's gonna a lot of fun stuff coming up over the horizon. So, special thanks to my patrons and YouTube members who've been supporting this, and and my throat for not dying while I do this. Let's But Stalin wasn't even communist, imperialistic. He was all Balkan stuff. Yeah, I think. Well, there was like dangers of. Yeah, there's obviously like Stalin's rise. Like that was the big concern, and obviously like the concerns about communism leaking in through there as well. There's a lot that Orwell was covering in there, and Andy Serkis didn't cover it. That's a whole other thing. So, but yeah, I digress. That's all we got for today. Come back in 2 more weeks, and we'll 2 more weeks, 2 weeks as usual, and we'll have plenty more new reviews. And be sure to check out some of the video essays we got coming up. So until next time, see you later, everybody. Boy. Oh, the mic's still on.